Hello and welcome to the Fire Emblem Lords ranking list. We have our lords, we have our tiers, Triple S, S, A, B, C, and Len. So we're going to start from the beginning. We're going to work our way through my parameters for this list will be quite simple. It will be the character and how well I think they are as the main lord of the game. If I think they're fleshed out well enough, if I think that they're given enough time to shine, versus their combat utility. Some lords are great in combat, some lords are not. That's what the majority of this list will be today, is how are they as a character versus how are they as a unit, and those two things together will make up whether or not they're highly or lowly ranked on this list. So, let's begin with Marth. I actually think Marth is a pretty solid character. We don't get a lot of information about him in the original games. Um, he's kind of your stereotypical hero, but he's a pretty decent unit. He starts off all right and becomes pretty solid, especially after you get the Falchion. He's not like the best lord, but he is like the first lord. He's like the idea of a lord, a pretty decent unit, a pretty decent character. I do think he has some pretty good conversations at times, but he doesn't really stick out to me as like one of the best lords in the series. So we're probably gonna put him in like an A tier. I think he's a good lord. He's just not like one of the best. Compare that immediately to Ulm, right? Ulm is a pretty good combat unit, gets OP really quickly if you train him right, and he's a really good character. There's a lot to love about Ulm. I think Ulm is for sure going in an S tier. He may even move up to a triple S tier, honestly. I just think he's a really good lord. He fits everything I look for in the lord. And that he's a good combat unit, really good character. He's got some great supports, especially when you like lean into his life on the farm and him trying to learn everything with Clive. He's a good character. I really like Ulm. In that same way, I really like Celica. I think she's a great lord as well. She's a better combat unit. Well, not combat, I would say. Uh, I think she might be a better character than she is a combat unit, but I really like Celica as a character. The stuff that she goes through is really tough on her. It shows over the course of her journey. Echoes is a lot of fun, even though it gets super difficult later on. But I do think she's a really good unit. She may get moved down to A depending on how this list goes, but for right now, she's going to stay in it. Man, Sigurd. Sigurd's such a good unit. Like, as a character, Sigurd's pretty good. I don't hate him or anything. I don't like super love him as a character, but he's pretty good. I like him. He's got a good personality. He gets along well with everybody. My big issue with him is that he falls in love with a woman as soon as he sees her, and then like things get really bad because of that. But other than that, like Sigurd's pretty cool as a character. But he's such a good unit. Like you throw Sigurd out into a battlefield, and he's gonna be fine. Silver Sword Sigurd is going to solo if you're not careful. You have to physically send other units in to get kills because otherwise enemies will die on him. He's going in an S tier for sure, and he may get moved up to triple S, honestly, because his combat superiority is just insane. Seliph, in a lot of ways for me, is kind of like Marth. He's a pretty good combat unit. He's a pretty good character. I really like his journey to try and retake his home. Leafs in the same way, although still haven't finished 776, but I think Leaf's journey is also really good in that way. So I'm gonna put them both in A, and I'm honestly gonna put them both above Marth because I do think they get a little bit more characterization. But I still really like them as characters. I think they're really good, and they're pretty decent units. Roy. So where Sigurd is on sheer unit capability, Roy is going to go wherever he goes based on his character. Because Roy is atrocious for most of the game. It's not until he gets the Binding Blade that he actually becomes usable. And up until that point, he's terrible. I think I'm probably going to put him in C tier, honestly. He would be in Lin tier if not for how much I like him as a character. He might go down to Lin tier, honestly. I mean, he does get better once he gets the Binding Blade. Oof, man. Takes forever for him to get there. Lilina, I like Lilina. She's a solid unit. She's a pretty good character. I don't like love Lilina or anything. She's not one of my favorite lords in the series. I wouldn't even classify her as a lord. I would not have put her on this list personally. But she's here. So sure. Why not, right? Lyn. Lyn tier. I really liked Lyn as a character at the start of the game. I honestly did. I was one of those guys that was like, Lyn's great. I love her as a character. She's my waifu. We gotta use her. We gotta level her. We gotta make her strong. Lyn is a terrible unit. Lyn may be a kind of okay character, but she is a terrible unit. And then when you dive into her supports, you dive into her as a character, you're going to hear two things. You're going to hear Sakai and my homeland. Because what Lyn really cares about is Sakai, her homeland, the plains. And so, like, Lyn is an abysmal combat unit. She can be good. If you feed her enough XP, she can be good. But she's never going to be good as, like, Eliwood or Hector or most of your other units. And then as a character, she just falls flat in a lot of ways. I know she's in some of my favorite scenes with Hector and with Eliwood. But she's just not that great when it comes to being a character. And I like Lyn. I do. I have a perler of Lyn behind the green screen. But she's just not great. I'm sorry. It's okay if you still like Lyn, but she's just not great. Eliwood. I really like Eliwood. I think he's a really solid character. I might put him in front of Marth as well. He's not a very good combat unit. You can get RNG Blessed and get an Ela good, but he's not like a great combat unit, you know? I still really like him as a character. There's not a ton to him until you get into, like, the post-Dread Isle stuff. But I do really like the path that his character takes. I know that FE7 has some writing problems, but I really enjoy that scene where he gets Durandal. I think that's a really powerful scene. And the stuff with Elbert and how everything goes down there. I just think Eliwood's a pretty good character. He's not, like, great, but he's also not terrible, you know? Hector, however, going straight up to S tier. Maybe, you know what? I'm going to put Hector in SSS. I think Hector's a great character. I think he's a great combat unit. Oh, Hector's so good on the battlefield. You can, granted, get RNG, you know, bad RNG, and then Hector's not as great. But for the most part, you're going to get a good Hector. You're going to get a powerful Hector that has a lot of defense, that is able to, you know, not deal with mages very well, but everything else he's going to destroy. And on top of that, Hector's a really good character. You get into, if you haven't seen it yet, Gas did a really great gas station, did a really great support science on Hector. And you get into his supports and you find his vulnerabilities, you find his weaknesses, and how he's trying to overcome those, how he knows he wouldn't be a good ruler, and, you know, he doesn't want to take the throne, but he also knows that he's going to have to someday. He knows that he's going to have to focus on those other things, but all he wants to do is fight. All he wants to do is be there for his friends. I really like Hector. I think he's a really solid character. And you get into, like, when he gets Armads and the axe and the promise that he makes there and how that all turns out. He's just a really solid character, man. He's, for sure, Triple S. I think we're going to go ahead and move Sigurd up to Triple S as well. I think we gotta. Eirika. I think Eirika's fine. I think she's a decent lord. I don't think she's like a great lord, but I think she's a decent lord. That's a joke, by the way, because she promotes into a great lord. Ha ha ha. No, I think she's decent. I really like her interactions with Leon. I think her supports are really good, you know? Her desire to rebuild Renee is really cool. She's not that great of a combat unit, which is unfortunately holding her back. But I do think she's still a really fun character, and I like her. Ephraim, though, is a really good combat unit. He starts out really strong. He only gets stronger. I think his character is holding him back a little bit more than his combat utility. But I still think he's a solid character. I don't think he's like a great character. You don't get a lot of character from him. The most that you get is in his supports with Tana and with La Rochelle. But you know, he's fine. His main goal is to protect his sister and protect his kingdom, you know? Sure. But he's still fun. Especially in that support with La Rochelle. I think he's really fun there. For sure. Really like Ephraim. S tier. Lance Lords are so rare. There's only 2 of them on this list. And I just think he's really cool. You know, he's a good unit. He's a decent character. I think that's good enough. Ike's triple S tier. There are a lot of people that don't like Ike, and I don't understand it. But I do like Ike. I think Ike is a great character as he goes from Ranger to Lord, as he becomes a Lord not by blood, but by choice, to be able to help protect his homeland, to be able to help kill the man who killed his father, you know? I think combat-wise, Ike is great. He starts out solid in Path of Radiance, and then by the time you get Ragnar, he's basically unkillable by anybody other than Ashnard and the Black Knight. And then you go into Radiant Dawn, and he's great right off the bat again, and then by the end, he's almost just as good as he was at the end of Path of Radiance. He's a crazy good combat unit. He's a crazy cool character. I really like Ike, and I think that they did a really good job of selling his journey from the kid training with Grail at the start of the game to being the man that, you know, basically has to kill a god. I think they did a really good job. In fact, I'm going to put Ike at the top. And that may be a controversial decision for some people, but let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know why you don't like Ike. Know why you don't think he deserves SSS. Or why you think somebody else does. Might move Alm up to SSS, honestly. I think we're going to. I think Alm's a really good character. I think Micaiah's a really good character. I think she's a really bad unit. That's not true. She's a good unit for the first half of the game. So we're going to put her in S. She is a good unit for the first half of the game. It's unfortunately the second half of the game where she falls really behind. And a lot of that is just that she's not given the time she needs to grow, you know? But I also think she's a really cool character. She could have definitely had more time to grow, but I think her motivation of, you know, I'm going to fight against this hero of the previous war because I got to protect my homeland. And the way that things work out there, I think she's a really interesting character. I do wish there'd been a little bit more time given to her towards the end, but I do think she's fun. She definitely could have been more useful in the tower. I think that's 100% true. But she's pretty useful early on, especially with her personal skill, sacrifice. Personal ability, sacrifice, being so useful. Chrom! Man, Chrom's a pretty decent combat unit. He's a pretty decent character. You can make him OP, but I like him as a character, you know? He's not super great, but he's kind of goofy, and that's really fun, you know? I think we're going to put him, like, midway through A tier. I think he's solid. I think Chrom's a good boy. Kind of too goofy sometimes, but he's a good boy. I like him. Corrin's in a weird place, because Corrin gets OP really quickly, and is a really good combat unit, but is maybe my least favorite Fire Emblem character ever. Because of that combat utility, I don't think I can put Corrin in Lyn tier. So I'm going to put Corrin in C. I guess ahead of Roy. I'm so sorry, Roy. Because I do think, like, Corrin is a good unit, but Corrin is the worst Lord. People love Corrin for no reason. They just, you know, flock to Corrin's side, and Corrin never really makes any decisions to try and solve the problem. Corrin's just like, I don't want to kill anybody. Or, we've got to do this. We don't have a choice. And just letting others kind of lead the story along. Very much Azura and whichever side you're on, the royals from that side. Not really making any choices of their own. And they kind of just get dragged along in with everything. They really should not have been the main lord of those games. But I honestly think Fates would have been better if the main lords were Ryoma, Xander, and Azura in the 3 games. But regardless, because of how bad of a character Corrin is, we're going to put Corrin in C. Alphonse! Alphonse is fine. He's not like, you can make him good. He's not like super good. I like him as a character. I think he's got a lot of character, especially like the interactions with him and his dad. I think he's pretty cool. He's from Fire Emblem Heroes, by the way, if you don't recognize him and you've never played it. You don't have to. You're okay without it. But Alphonse is fine. Leanna and Rowan from Warriors. There's not really much to them, honestly. It's their friendship with Darius, and that's about it. Like, there's a relationship between their parents that doesn't really ever get touched on. They're fine, I think. We're going to put them in C. They're cool, I guess. We'll move them up to a B, because they are at least good in combat. I just don't really like them. Where do I rank these three? Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude. I haven't finished Claude's route yet. I haven't started. I'm on the Black Eagles route right now, Edelgard's route. But I got a good feeling of who these characters are based on Dimitri's route and then doing Church route. So I think all three of these characters are great combat units. Absolutely. No doubt in my mind, they need to be top of the list when it comes to combat. Where do their characters place them? It's tough to rank this because I don't know. Like, do I want to take away points from Edelgard? Because on Dimitri's route, she doesn't get all of the development that she would on her own route? No. Why would I do that? That's not fair to her, you know? So, I'm going to do... Man, this is really tough. I want to put Edelgard in S, Dimitri in SSS, and Claude in S. But I don't think that's necessarily fair. Because I have only completed Church route and Dimitri route. And I think they're all three good characters. I am going to go ahead and put Edelgard in S. Because I think some of her decisions are a little interesting. Even on Black Eagles route. I think that some of her decisions are a little... Well, okay. Like working with people that she knows she can't trust. In some ways, it's a good character trait. Because she's doing what she has to for her goal, right? But in other ways, she could have gotten her goal without things having to go that way. In Blue Lion's route, olive branches were offered, you know, and she just viewed that it was too late. I do still really like her character, obviously. I put her above Ellawood, who I love. But I think she's going to stay there. Combat-wise, she's amazing. She's absolutely indestructible, it feels like. So, Dimitri and Claude, man. I'm going to go ahead and put Dimitri in SSS. I love Dimitri. He's already maybe my personal favorite lord in the series. He's an insane combat unit with swords or spears, whichever you decide to keep him. He's really good on the battlefield. And he's also just a really great character. I think pain that he carries, that he's trying to overcome, and the story there leading to one of my favorite scenes in all of Fire Emblem. Dimitri's great. And I absolutely adore him. Would love to, you know, only play Blue Lions, if not just to be able to spend more time with him, but there are other routes to play. Now, the toughest one is Claude, because I haven't played Golden Deer, but I've interacted with Claude, and I like him a lot, and I know he's a good unit, but I haven't played with him on my own. For now, we're tentatively going to put him in an S tier, because I do think all three of the Three Houses Lords are strong enough combat-wise, and good enough characters that they deserve to at least be an S tier. I think these are three of my favorite lords, and I think they're written very well. Even if I don't agree with Edelgard, I do think she's a really good character. With that said, if after I beat the Golden Deer route I disagree with myself, I will post a comment about how he should be higher up. But regardless, let me know in the comment section your thoughts. Where do you think these characters should go? Is there a lord that maybe you think I rank too low? Do you think Len should be SSS tier? If so, let me know in the comment section down below. Before we go, though, let's organize them in the tier. So, I think Ike, Hector, Leaf, Leaf's down here. Sigurd, Alm, Dimitri is a pretty good lineup, honestly. I might switch Sigurd and Alm, but I think that's a good lineup right now. For S tier, I don't know that Ephraim is better than. I don't think our precious Dawn Maiden is better than Edelgard and Claude. I actually think Claude might be better than Edelgard. But I don't know that for sure. I don't know that Ephraim is better than them either, really. But I really like Ephraim, so we're going to leave him there. For this tier, I think we might move Ellawood up. I really like Ellawood, man. We might move Erica up to like right here. But other than that, they're staying the same. This tier is fine. This tier, I really want to put Roy above him because I like him as a character, but he's worse in combat by far. And then Linz and Lindmode. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And until next time, I've been Trey. This has been the Full Spectrum. And remember to always enjoy the full spectrum. Fire Emblem has to offer.